Welcome to this session. Today we would be discussing the IAS CSAT Paper 2015 that was held on 23rd August. So to start with, Paper 2 this time was qualifying in nature. The qualifying percentage required 33% for this paper, but that's applicable only for 2015 examination. For 2016 we are yet not sure whether the marks will be added in the final merit or not towards the merit that would be counting for the mains qualification. Now the paper this time seemed to be deceptively simple, but in reality some of the questions were really tricky and conceptual. Few starting questions were based on passage, so let's start with one such passage question. Now this question talks about the rich and the poor state and the statement that rich states have the share of responsibilities to promote clean energy investments. So the main focus here is on clean energy, okay, and these are the states that have got electricity grew faster and have better per capita income as compared to the remaining country. Example has been given for the state of Delhi, and based on that they are stating that there is no secret that state and electricity board, which controls 95% of the distribution networks, is in loss. Okay, so all this statement, all this paragraph talks about clean energy. That's the first thing. Now let's move on to the question. The question says, which of the following is the most logical and rational assumption that can be made from the given passage? So as we can see, this passage talked about clean energy, that means renewable energy. So this seems correct. The second statement talks about electricity, that's incorrect. So third statement talks about state electricity boards can improve their finances by undertaking clean energy project, that has not been mentioned in the paragraph. And the economic disparity between the rich and the poor state is a cause of concern, is again not mentioned. There is nothing mentioned about economic disparity between the rich and the poor states. So the only option that can be correct here is choice A, that richer states lead in the production and adoption of renewable energy resources and the clean energy initiatives. So the correct answer here is choice A. Let's move on to the next set of questions. This passage is a story about Manak and Guleri, and Manak was the husband, okay, and he did a second remarriage. And this statement says that the second wife delivered a son and he was forced to remarry, and based on that Guleri took fire on herself by putting kerosene. So this whole story, he was remarried because of the reasons that there is a kind of patriarchal mindset. They were looking for someone who could run the family. A grandchild, his mother was looking for a grandchild who can run a family, and ultimately they had a son. So this story talks about patriarchal mindset. Male chauvinism means superiority of male towards female. That was incorrect. There is nothing mentioned about love and betrayal, and lack of legal safeguards. So about legal, there is nothing mentioned about the legal issues in this paragraph. So the only option that can be correct here is influence of patriarchal mindset. This question explains about the municipal corporations of India, saying that they are unstaffed and they require high degree of specialization and professionalism, but the academic courses, but the cadre and recruitment rules deal only with academic qualification. There is no mention of management or technical competence among the people. So this is something that is discussed in this paragraph, explaining about the current situation of the staffs in most of the municipal corporations. Based on this, the question asks, which is the most logical conclusion that can be, most logical assumption that can be made from this passage. So based on this passage, I can say the cities provide better quality of life, which has adequate staff with required skill and competence. So if our cities have adequate staff, first is the thing that was mentioned, that the municipal corporations are understaffed and then they lack in competence and skill. So if they are adequately staffed and they have required skill and competence, they can provide citizens with better quality of life. So B would be the correct option in this case. Next question. This passage talks about flamingos. Flamingos are a kind of birds which are considered most social and loyal, and parents keep the chicks together. So what they do is both father and mother go in search of the food, and the chicks are gathered together with the aim of protection. Now the question does not ask what can we conclude, rather it asks which is the most logical corollary. Corollary means if we have a statement, what a next statement or a conclusion can we draw based on the information that is given in the passage. So based on the information that is given in the passage, I can say the social behavior in some species of the birds increases the odds of survival in an unsafe world. So based on this, I can say since they keep them together for protection, that implies a social behavior, and this social behavior in some species where we are mentioning specifically about flamingos increases the odds of survival in an unsafe world. So considering the world unsafe, they try to keep the chicks together for protection. The next question is talking about financial inclusion, and they say they believe that rural areas which are financially and functionally illiterate have little experience with technology. So despite of the launch of this scheme, that is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, the money is not going directly in the hand of poor people. It was assumed that the money would directly go into the bank accounts, but later on, after the implementation of this scheme, it was realized that it used to go into the hands of village leaders, and these village leaders tried to deliver it to the villagers in the form of cash. So that was one of the major limitations of this scheme. Now the question says, what is the most logical, rational and crucial message that is implied from the above passage? Now the question clearly specifies that if I am talking about this scheme, then what it is happening is, it's important that we provide financial and functional literacy, because the passage here clearly mentions that there is financial and functional illiteracy. That implies what we need to improve is the financial and the functional literacy in the villages. So it's very important and essential to provide financial literacy to the rural poor in order to make the implementation of the schemes feasible. Next question. This question talks about the individual groups and leaders. They tend to promote human development under a strong institutional structure and political constraints that affect the policy options. Now the thing that is highlighted in this is that despite we are focusing on economic growth exclusively can never promote human development. So for human development to be promoted in good sense, we not only need a good knowledge about health and education, but we also need to understand whether this would lead to a proper growth or not. Also there is a mention of negative environmental consequences with increased economic growth. So these are the two things that are mentioned here. So one is the negative environmental consequences, and secondly, economic growth individually cannot be self-sufficient. Now the question says, which of the following information can be drawn from the given passage or the given information? So first it says, in developing countries, a strong institutional framework is the only requirement for human development and policy option. That's incorrect, because it's not mentioned that it should be only just a strong institutional framework. Human development and economic growth are not always positively interrelated. That is correct, because we understand that economic growth exclusively cannot lead to human development, and focusing on human development should be the goal of economic growth. That is not mentioned, because we are talking about not the goal of economic growth, but we are talking about the goal of human development. So here we say only 2 can be a correct option. So C would be the correct choice here. Now most of the students, what they do, a kind of silly mistake is they consider 2 to be the correct and they mark B here. So it's very important that you check out here that it's 2 only, and 2 only is given in choice C. So you mark choice C rather than choice B. The next question, with reference to the same passage that we have discussed before, I can say environmental degradation is a consequence of economic growth. That's correct because it clearly mentions about negative environmental consequences. Higher economic growth is essential to reduce economic disparity. There is no mention of anything regarding the economic growth for the reduction of economic disparity in this passage. So there is nothing mentioned about disparity. So the only thing that is mentioned is 2. So again 2 only would be the correct answer in this case. Now let's move on to some analytical and logical questions. So the first question here says A runs less fast than B. So you have B, A. So A runs less fast than B, that means B runs faster than A. Then B runs as fast but not faster than C. So B runs either at the same speed as C does or at a lesser speed than C. So what can I say? C runs, if I see this, I can directly say C runs faster than A. So B would be the correct choice, that C runs faster than A. Next question. Now if I want to solve this question, what I can do? I can follow a stepwise information what is given. So I have 4 people, A, B, C and D. Each of them has 100 rupees. So I write 100 against each of these. Now A pays rupees 20 to B. So A is giving 20 rupees to B. So what is happening? He is getting 20 less. So it becomes 80 and this becomes 120. So B now has 120. B who pays rupees 10 to C. Now B would give 10 rupees to C. So C, it would be 100 plus 10. So it would be 110. And this becomes 10 less. So it would become 110. And finally, C who gets 30 rupees from D. So C is again getting 30 rupees from D. So D gets 70. C gets 140. Now, which of the following statement is not correct? The word not here is important because if you don't read not, you can say C is the richest because C has 140, 70, 120, 110 and 80. So I can directly say C would be the richest, but the question says not correct. So C is richest is correct, D is poorest is correct. C has more than what A and D has together. So A has 80, D has 70, so it's 80 plus 70, that is 150, and C has 140, so 140 is less than 150, so C has less than what A and D has, so C is the incorrect option, and B is richer than D, so B has 110 and D has 70, so B is richer than D, that is correct. Next question. Now this question is a classic question that is based on Venn diagram with three items or 3 elements. So you have people reading magazines A, B and C. Okay, 45% population read A. So this is 45% and this would include this complete circle. B, it's 55% and C, it's 40%. Now what is happening is 30% read A and B. So between A and B, it's this section. So this complete section would be 30%. Then 15% read B and C. So between B and C, that's this region, B and C, it's 15%. So this would be 15%. And then you have A and C, it's 25. So this region is 25%. Now there is 10% that read all the 3 magazines. So this center region would be 10%. Now this whole is 45. From this whole I would subtract this section and then add this section because this is a overlapping section. So I can say 45 plus 55 plus 40, that would be one set. Okay. So that's the items of individual elements. From this, what I am doing is, this would be 45 minus 30 and minus 25 plus 10, and same I would do for all the three. So this section plus this section plus this section, and then I would add all the sections to get the individual values. So I can subtract 30, 25 and 15. So minus 30, 25 and 15, and finally I would add the center region, that's 10. That would give me the people who read magazines. So if I solve this, it would be 90, 100, 140, 140 and 70. 140 minus it's 90, 100, 140, 140 minus 30, 20, 50, 50, 60, 70, minus 70 plus 10. Okay, so that would give me 70 and 80. Okay, so how many percentage do not read any magazine? So it would be 100 minus 80. So I have 25, 40, 25, 15, that's 40, 40 and 30, that's 70. Here I have 55 and 45, that is 90 and 100, 100 and 40, that's 140. So 140 minus 70 plus 10. So it's 70 plus 10, that's 80. So 80 people are reading magazine. So how many percentage do not read magazine? So if I consider this as a whole subset, all those are within the circle would be reading the magazine, and those are 80%, and outside this circle would be 100 minus 80, that's 20%. So the answer here would be 20%. The next, Shahid and Rohit start from the same point in opposite direction. So what is happening here is, you have a point starting. This is where Shahid goes and this is where Rohit goes. They move 1 kilometer. Now each of them is going 1 kilometer, and Shahid is turning left and Rohit is turning right. So if Rohit goes 1 kilometer and turns right, he would go down. That's 1 kilometer. Now here if he turns right, he would go in this direction. So it's again 1. Now let's come on to Shahid. Shahid is going this way. Now his left would be down, so it would be here. Now again his left would be this side, so this would be here. So if I can see here, if they are going in the same fashion, they would meet one another at, after they have travelled 3 kilometers, so it's 1, 2, 1, 1 and 1, that's 3, and 1, 1 and 1, that's 3. So after walking 3 kilometers, each of them would meet at this position. So the correct answer here would be B. They will meet each after having travelled 3 kilometers. Okay. So it's very important to understand this question. Both of the children are starting from the same point. Shahid is going on one side, Rohit is going on one side. They are opposite in each other. One always travels left and other always travels right. So if he is always travelling left, he would reach at this point, and he is always travelling right, so he will reach at this point. So after 3 kilometers both of them have walked, they will meet again at a common point. So the correct answer here would be B. Now this is an interesting question. You have 500 meters of race. So consider this to be 500 meters of race. B starts 45 meters ahead of A, but A wins the race while B is still 35 meters behind. What is the ratio of the speed? So speed is equal to distance upon time. Now the time taken by both is assumed to be same here. So the distance covered by A would be 500 by A, that's the speed of A, and that would be equal to the time that is taken by the another one, because both of them are finishing the race. So B is starting 45 meters from here and finishing, and is still at 35 meters behind the finishing point. That means what would be the value for B? It would be 500 minus 45 plus 35 by B. So if I solve this, it would be 500 by A is equal to 420 by B. So A by B would be 500 by 32. 500 by 402, that would be 50 by 42. If I cancel by 2, it's 25 by 21. So the answer would be 25 is to 21. So A would be the correct choice here. So it's a simple logic problem. A is traveling the full distance, that is 500 meters. B is traveling lesser distance, he is 45 meters ahead here and 35 meters behind. So the distance would be 500 minus 45 plus 35. So that would be the distance for B. So if we want to calculate the ratio of A is to B, it would be 25 by 21. Next question. There are two equal glasses filled with 1/3 and 1/4 milk. So in the first glass there is 1/3 milk, that means there is 2/3 water. In the second glass there is 1/4 milk, that means there is 3/4 water. So what I do, I want to find the total ratio of milk and water. So I add the milks together and water together. So it would be 1/3 plus 1/4 here, and here it would be 2/3 plus 3/4. So I take a LCM of 12, so it would be 4 plus 3, that's 7/12. And here it would be again 12 LCM. It would be 8 plus 9, that's 17/12. So the ratio would be 7:17. So A would be the correct answer. The ratio would be 7:17. Next question. Out of the 130 students who have appeared in the examination, 62 failed in mathematics, 62 failed in English, 52 failed in mathematics, and 24 failed in both. So this is English, this is mathematics. 62 fail in English, 52 fail in mathematics, and 24 fail both in mathematics and English. Now if I want to calculate students who are failing just in English, it would be 62 minus 64. And students who are failing only in mathematics, it would be 52 minus 24. So this region and this region I have calculated individually. Now if I want to say how many students have failed, I can say it would be 62 minus 24 plus 24 plus 52 minus 24, or I can say 62 plus 52 minus 24. This and this would cancel out. So it would be 114 minus 24, so 0, it would be 90, okay. Sorry. 8 and 9, 90. Okay. Now out of the 130 students, so it's not 100. So I just got confused here with 100. So it's important to note the total number of students are 130 that are given. Okay. So 130 students are given and 90 students failed. So how many students passed would be very simple. It would be 130 minus 90. So the answer would be 0 and 4. So 40 students are the students who finally passed in the examination, and the remaining students failed in the examination. So just to do a quick recap, so we are drawing the Venn diagram. We are showing the regions of the students who have failed. Now 62 is the complete circle for English and 62 are failing here. 24 is the common region. So here I can say it would be 62 minus 24. Here it would be 52 minus 24, and this is a 24 which is a common region. If I try to solve this equation, I get 90. So 90 students are failing. There are 130 students in all. So the students who are passing would be 130 minus 90, that's 40. Next question. This is a very confusing question where most of the students got struck up. Now in a parking, the total number of wheels. So the first thing here is, what is asked is wheels, not the vehicles. Then cars, definitely there are 4 wheels, and scooters there are 2 wheels. Is 100 more than twice the number of parked vehicles? Find the number of cars. Now to start with this question, consider the cars to be X and scooters to be Y. Now if I want the total number of wheels, there are 4 wheels in the car, so it would be 4X. There are 2 wheels in the scooter, so it would be 2Y. And this number is 100 plus twice the number of total parked vehicles, that's X plus Y. So if I solve this, it would be 4X plus 2Y is equal to 100 plus 2X plus 2Y. So 2Y and 2Y cancels out. So I can say 2X, that's 4X minus 2X, that's 2X is equal to 100, and X is equal to 50. So I can calculate X, that is 50, and X is the number of cars. So X was the cars that we had taken initially, and the question says number of cars parked in the area would be 50. So the correct answer here is C, that is 50. Next question. Now this question talks about mangrove vegetation. This passage says that mangroves shed a lot of leaves. Since they shed a lot of leaves, there is lot of bacterial activity that takes place in the region. These bacteria are consumed by worms, which in turn are consumed by small fish, and which in turn are consumed by larger fish. So it's a kind of food chain that is being demonstrated. You are going from leaf to bacteria to small fish, tiny insect, small fish, and finally big fishes. But this talks about only mangroves. So coastal area cannot have food chain without mangroves. That is incorrect, because we are just talking about mangroves. We do not know anything about other things. So mangroves are essential components of marine ecosystem. That's again incorrect, because in the passage we are nowhere saying that mangroves are essential. Mangroves have a crucial role in some of the food chains. That is correct, because here we are talking about one of the food chain which is being formed by mangroves. So we can say mangroves have a crucial role in some of the food chains. That's correct. And finally, the composition of marine flora and fauna is largely determined by mangroves. That's again incorrect, because we are not talking anywhere about the composition of flora and fauna. Flora and fauna means the plants and the animals in the region. So the correct answer here would be C. Now the final question. By liberty, I mean the eager maintenance of the atmosphere wherein men have opportunity to be at their best. That means liberty is a kind of feeling where we allow human growth. So we are allowing maximum growth of an individual in that region. So liberty is the absence of restraint on human action. That's incorrect. We are nowhere talking about the restraint of human action. It is what law permits people to perform. We are not talking about the performance of the people. We are not talking about one's desire, but we are definitely talking to maintain a condition which allows growth for human personality, which gives an opportunity for all individuals to be at their best. So D would be the correct answer here. So in this session, what we have covered is the first 20 questions of the IAS CSAT Paper II. We would be covering the next 60 questions in the subsequent 3 video lectures that we would be doing. You can subscribe to Examrace channel for any further updates. Till then, have a good day ahead.